Okay, let's unpack this. You know, in a world that feels, well, intensely interconnected sometimes, and honestly surprisingly unpredictable other times, this whole idea of true independence, it's become really compelling. So today, we're embarking on a deep dive. And it's into something quite a bit broader than just digital currency. We're exploring personal sovereignty. We'll look at how Bitcoin, once seen as that risky, almost weird internet money, actually connects to a much deeper philosophy. We're talking self-reliance, resilience, not just financially, but like in every part of life.
Right. And to help us explore this, we've got some fascinating insights. These come from an interview with Bitcoin pioneer Tina Blanco and also Eric Tolman from sat123.com. They offer a really unique perspective on how this whole thing is evolving, especially now in the digital age.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack what personal sovereignty means today, and also uncover some surprising practical tools that are, well, making it more accessible than you might think. And we should probably start at the beginning, right? With an origin story. Tina Blanco's story is pretty captivating. A real Bitcoin OG, as they say.
Oh, absolutely. Tina Blanco, yeah, she started getting into Bitcoin when it was just a dollar. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
She talks about buying around 1,000 Bitcoin back then, actually encouraged by her son. And then, she sold them eventually at $3,000.
Wow, 3,000. Which, I mean, sounds amazing profit-wise, but ouch, considering where it went.
Exactly. It's that classic early adopter lament, isn't it? Selling
Yeah.
it too soon. But it's more than just a funny story. It really highlights the psychological challenge, holding on to something truly revolutionary when everyone else is calling it risky or mystical internet money. It makes having that long-term vision incredibly tough.
That's a great point. And her foresight wasn't just about buying early. What really struck me was how she used digital assets in her business. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Her approach to like employee incentives.
Sure. So, as a business owner, she did something pretty innovative back then. Instead of standard 401k plans, she used Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP as incentives. Employees would get accounts set up at exchanges, and they'd receive regular crypto payouts for hitting their goals.
Huh. That's really forward thinking.
It totally was. It showed this deep belief she had that digital assets would eventually outperform traditional benefits. Even if, as she mentions, a lot of those early employees didn't quite hold on long enough to see those life-changing gains.
Still, it's a fascinating approach. And speaking of foresight, she has some pretty bold predictions now, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah. Very bold. Tina Blanco thinks Bitcoin could hit, get this, $250,000 by the end of this year.
250,000.
Okay, and wait for it. Possibly $1 million by the end of 2026.
$1 million. Wow. Okay, what's the reasoning there? How does she justify numbers like that?
Well, she breaks it down. First, Bitcoin's genuinely limited supply. Plus, a good chunk is probably lost forever, right? Keys gone, wallets inaccessible. Then you add in global monetary inflation, fiat currencies losing value. And importantly, growing acceptance by governments, or at least regulation that gives it legitimacy.
Okay. That makes sense. Supply, inflation, adoption.
Exactly. And she has this interesting observation, too. She says all the people waiting for Bitcoin to drop below certain prices, like maybe back down to 20K or 30K, she thinks that actually acts as a kind of bullish signal.
How so?
Because all that waiting by interest creates a strong support level. It makes it less likely to actually dip that low because buyers will just jump in. It props up the floor, basically.
Ah, okay, I see. Interesting perspective. So Tina's story really hits home on the financial side of sovereignty, right? Owning your assets, maybe opting out of older systems. But like we said at the start, personal sovereignty is bigger than just money. It stretches into how we, maintain control when the usual systems wobble.
Precisely. And that's where Eric Tolman's insights really come into play. For people really seeking self-reliance, sovereignty means being prepared, like properly prepared, ready for grid outages, internet going down, making sure you can still communicate and manage your digital life, even if the main infrastructure fails.
Yeah, it's about being independent from those centralized points of failure.
Exactly. Comprehensive independence.
And Eric Tolman from sat123.com, he uses this analogy I thought was really powerful. He basically says the internet has become like water or air, totally essential. So losing access, even for a short time, can throw your whole life into chaos, especially if you rely on, say, decentralized finance tools.
Right. Those DeFi apps, lending, trading, whatever they're built on blockchain, often needing constant connectivity. No internet, no access.
Totally. I mean, thinking about the last time that power went out in my area, suddenly you realize how much you depend on that connection for everything. Paying bills, ordering stuff, just getting information.
And that dependency is exactly what sat123.com tries to address. Eric explained, their company was initially set up to give businesses and individuals, too, backup options. Communications, power, connectivity.
Okay, so like backup systems.
Yeah. But they've expanded way beyond that now. They offer things like Faraday bags. We can get into those later, bulletproof backpacks, solar panels, even whole home battery systems. They're really tailoring solutions for anyone who wants more independence from that central grid, whether they're into crypto or not.
And they've made this stuff more accessible, haven't they? I heard satellite phone prices came way down.
They have. That's a key part of their mission, making resilience tech more affordable. Satellite phones used to cost thousands. Now, they've brought prices down to a few $100s. Sometimes they even provide the device for free if you sign up for a service agreement.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Bringing it down from thousands to hundreds is really impressive. What allowed them to do that? Was it just technology getting cheaper or?
It's a mix, I think. Technology improvements, sure, but also their business model, focusing on streamlining distribution, buying in bulk. And like I said, sometimes subsidizing the hardware cost through the service plan. It makes it much easier for regular people to get started.
Okay, so it opens up practical possibilities. Like, could you actually run your own Bitcoin node completely off-grid using their stuff?
Absolutely. That's one of the use cases they talk about. For people who don't know, running a Bitcoin node means you're directly plugged into the network. You're validating transactions yourself, keeping your own copy of the entire blockchain.
So you don't have to trust anyone else's server.
Exactly. It's a fundamental act of financial sovereignty in the Bitcoin world.
So you could use something like Starlink for satellite internet, hook it up to battery backups, maybe some solar panels, and you could literally send and receive Bitcoin, validate transactions without touching the local power grid or your normal internet provider.
That's the idea. Total independence. Imagine during an emergency, like those hurricanes they get in Florida that knock out power for days. Having that off-grid capability could be crucial not just for Bitcoin, but for basic communication too.
Yeah, absolutely critical in those situations.
And another thing Eric stressed is that they don't just sell you like a satellite phone and say good luck. They provide complete kits.
Ah, so it's more of a solution, not just components.
Right. They focus on that. You get the device, maybe a custom case, all the adapters you might need.
Yep.
Plus, they offer 204/7 support. It's really about giving you a ready-to-go resilient system, empowering you to basically be your own infrastructure.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
A complete package.
And speaking of security and being prepared, the conversation also touched on physical security measures, specifically Faraday bags.
Right. Faraday bags, I've heard of those. How exactly do they work? What makes them important for, personal security today?
Okay, so think of a Faraday bag as basically a portable metal cage for your electronics. It's made with materials that block electromagnetic frequencies. So Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular signals, RFID, like in your passport or credit cards, none of that gets in or out.
It creates like a signal dead zone inside the bag.
Exactly, a total dead zone. It completely isolates whatever device you put inside from any external wireless signals.
Okay, that sounds incredibly useful, especially for protecting digital assets, maybe on a hardware wallet or even just personal info.
Precisely, that's a primary use case.
Yeah.
You put your hardware wallet in there and nobody can remotely access it or try to skim data. Same for credit cards with RFID chips or even your passport.
So it shields them from remote reading or interception?
Correct. For anyone really conscious about security, these bags are pretty valuable. They protect against digital threats, tracking, data theft, but also some, let's say, physical interference related to signals.
It's about taking real, tangible control over your digital footprint, even in the physical world. Fascinating stuff. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive. We've kind of traced Bitcoin's journey, haven't we? From this niche, risky thing to a symbol of independence for some people. And we've really broadened that idea of personal sovereignty beyond just money.
Yeah, looking at preparedness, communication, resilience.
And uncovering these tools, many surprisingly affordable now, that can help you build that resilience in your own life.
Definitely. And understanding these concepts, these tools, it really can empower you. The world's changing, monetary systems are evolving, infrastructure has its challenges. Having this knowledge helps you navigate what's coming next with hopefully a bit more confidence.
So thinking about all this, what does it actually mean for you listening right now? Maybe consider what's one small step you could take towards greater personal resilience. Could be just learning more about your digital footprint, Or maybe looking into some of these tools for off-grid communication or power, even just thinking through how would you access critical information if the usual channels went down? What kind of unexpected, maybe freedom or security could taking even a small step bring into your life? Something to think about.